Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about writing, books, philosophy, and pretty much whatever I want. My name is Kate. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, I am so excited to do today's video because I will be talking about my 2024 reading stats. I will be taking these from Goodreads and Fable. I absolutely love end of the year wrap up stats. I just love reading over all the things I read or listened to. I love all the details. It makes me feel like, oh, I actually did do quite a lot in 2024. Honestly, 2024 was probably my best reading year ever. I discovered so many new favorites. Let's jump into the stats. I'm gonna start with Goodreads. In 2024, I read 75 books, which was definitely a lot more than last year. I read 61 in 2023, and I think my goal in 2024 was 70, so I definitely surpassed that goal. Technically, I read like 80 or 81 books, but we'll get to that reason later. My year in books. I read 26,409 pages. My shortest book was All by My Elf by Olivia Dade, which was 55 pages. And my longest book was Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, which was 1,248 pages. My average book length in 2024 was 352 pages, which surprised me because I feel like I've read a lot of like 500, 600 page books this year. Most shelved was Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, which has over 5.7 million people who also shelved it. My least shelved was 98 Sabers by Elizabeth Broadbent with 11 people shelved. My average rating for 2024 was 3.8 stars, which again was surprising to me considering that I read so many 4 stars this year and 5 stars. My highest rated book that I read on Goodreads was Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson with an average of 4.76 stars. My first review of the year and the first book I read in 2024 was The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I gave it 3 stars. Leading up to reading it, I was seeing so many Sylvia Plath quotes all over like threads and Instagram. So I was like, okay, I guess I gotta pick this up because I'm relating too much to these quotes that I'm reading. My last review of the year was for The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. It wasn't my last book that I read, it was just my last review because honestly, my last book, which was All by My Elf by Olivia Dade, it was a 1 star. Let's just say that, and I didn't feel like writing anything about it. Okay, now let's go into the Fable stats, and I absolutely love the way they do their reading wrap-ups because it's kind of like a Spotify Wrapped. They give you a beautifully worded prompt about what your reading tastes are like. They sum up everything in a really nice way. The graphics are really pretty. The only thing that I dislike about the way Fable does their stuff at the end of the year is that if you ask it to regenerate it, it will give you new answers every single time. I did it like twice, so I'm gonna read the one that I like the best, I guess. Starting with my monthly breakdown, so I'm gonna tell you how many books I read in each month. In January, I read 12 books. February was 5. March was 8. April was 7. May 4. 5 in June and July. 3 books in both August and September. 9 books in October. 6 in November and 8 in December. I know that it seems that I read the least amount of books in August and September, but there is a real reason for that, and that's because I was rereading my book Under the Same Sky like 3 or 4 times for final edits before I published it in October. That's why I technically read like 80 or 81 books this year because I reread this so many times. And of course, if you'd like to check out my book, it is available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. I will have the link to it in the description. It is a cozy, small town, friends to lovers romance, and I'm really proud of it. I read the most books in January with 12, but I think my favorite reading year was October because I read so many amazing books back to back, including Lady Macbeth by Ava Reed, Prince of Darkness by Carrie Maniscalco, which is a novella within the Hunting Prince Dracula series, which has 4 books, which I also read Capturing the Devil, I think, which was book 4 in that series, The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Fawcett, my book Under the Same Sky, Something in the Woods Loves You by Jared K. Anderson, Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, I think. That's how you say that? And A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. Then Fable breaks down your reading by seasons, I guess. I started the year with Vampires and Witches, seasonally ironic, but I mean, it's me. I'm always reading about vampires and witches. Let's be real. Spring danced with Frozen Quests, an epic contradiction. Summer had thrills afloat, history's dark, dusky waves. I love the way they put that. And then I ended the year with snowy romances, warm plots to chill for. I was guilty of having hot takes. I rated Challenger Deep by Neil Shusterman 1 star when the average rating is like 4.2, I guess. This just wasn't for me. I misunderstood what it was about. I thought it was actually about this voyage that this boy happens to go on to go to the Mariana Trench, and he would actually have to go down into the trench. But instead what this was a story about this boy who's dealing with, I think, schizophrenia. He's in the hospital, and the characters that are in the book are manifestations of his struggle with mental illness. It just wasn't for me. I know this book has a lot of literary merit to it, so I would recommend it. I think stories like this are very important, so I'm glad that Neil Shusterman wrote this, but it just wasn't for me. I was found guilty of writing the hype train with A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which apparently on Fable, 448,000 other people also added it to a list. Apparently I'm in the top 5% on Fable of psychology readers, in the top 5% of historical fiction readers, in the top 5% of horror readers, which this lists Two Twisted Crowns as horror, which I don't know if I would characterize it that way. More like fantasy, in my opinion. My top genres of the year were fantasy, romance, historical fiction, horror, and young adult, with 40 books in fantasy, 35 romance, 18 historical fiction, and 17 in both horror and young adult. I've known this about myself. I was pretty sure I had found what my favorite genre is, and I just love fantasy. You can do anything in fantasy. It's the best genre in my humble opinion. Romance, I think I will be reading less romance in 2025, just simply because there's this new thing that's been happening where by like the 60% mark, I no longer care and I just want to finish it. I want to pick up more historical fiction and historical romance, not contemporary romance. And now we have the first of 2 reader's summaries that Fable gives you, and this one says, I am a fantasy romantist. Your love for cozy, swoon-filled fantasy suggests you'd rather make snow angels than confront any real-life blizzards. Yet, like a well-crafted spell, your taste unveils a heart that craves wonder and warmth. I just think that is so beautiful. I love the way they word things. I definitely reached my goal of 2024, which I think was 70 books. I did 75, 80, whatever you want to call it, so 107% completed. This is my best reading streak was 3 days, but that's not true. I just didn't update it on Fable. I read pretty much every day. Since we're speaking about Goodreads, on the last day of 2024, I officially became a Goodreads author. I will have the link to my page in the description if you'd like to check it out. I also do reviews of books on Goodreads. My favorite book-related video I made for YouTube was my I wrote a book, it's about to be published video. That one did a lot better than I was expecting, and it seemed to strike a chord with some people, and so I want to continue making content like that in 2025. So if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see from me, then put it down in the comments below. My top author in 2024 was Brandon Sanderson with 6 books, and then I read 4 books from T. Kingfisher, and then I read 3 books from 4 authors, Ellie Hazelwood, Carrie Maniscalco, Sarah J. Maas, and Talia Hibbert. And then I read 2 books from 5 authors, Alex E. Harrow, Emily Henry, Erin Hunter, Heather Fawcett, and Rachel Gillig. My favorite book of the year was The Angel's Game by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I did make a video that I posted yesterday talking about my 9 favorite books of the year and 2 honorable mentions. If you would like to check it out, I'll leave the link in the description. And my least favorite book of the year was, oh my god, let me see if I remember this title. The Frugal Wizard's Guide to Surviving Medieval England, Secret Projects No. 2 by Brandon Sanderson. I was disappointed with this book because, as I said earlier in the video, Brandon Sanderson was my #1 author of 2024. I know that he can write compelling characters, and he's a master world builder, magic system creator. He knows how to write a book, but this one, I don't know what happened with it. If you've watched his BYU, I think, he has them on YouTube. He does this whole 10-part lecture about how to write fantasy, and he talks about the importance of establishing where you are early on in the book, giving the reader a framework so that they feel comfortable in the world that you're creating. I feel like he didn't really do that very well with this book because it's an amnesia story. The main character has forgotten who he is, how he's ended up in this world that he finds himself in. This book is about being able to purchase domains or like servers for other worlds that exist in history that you can go and travel in. You have stats and buffs. It's like a video game, but because it's an amnesia story, we don't really know where he is or what's going on for a really long time. The characters were kind of all over the place. There was a lot of humor that I didn't personally find funny. Like, I don't read Brandon Sanderson for his humor because I don't personally think that he and I jive that well that way. I read it for the world building and the characters. I just didn't laugh at anything in this, and he clearly wrote it to be like a zany sci-fi fantasy. I didn't get it. So this was a DNF. I got like 120 pages in. I really tried. Maybe someday I'll pick it up again, but it was a 1 star. I will have to have nothing else to read if I ever pick it up. I'm really sad about not liking that one as much. And here we have another reader's summary. Eclectic explorer. Your taste dances across self-help, quirky romance, medieval sci-fi, and immersive love stories. It's like you're trying to read a book from every corner of the universe, possibly to avoid self-reflection. Yeah, so it definitely called me out. I personally think I know myself pretty well, but I don't know, maybe there is something to that because I am quite an eclectic reader. I read all over the place. There you have it. Those are my stats from 2024. I think in 2025, I will start to manually write down other stats, like how many were audio from my library, ebooks, etc. I want to add to the stats for next year because, like I said, I love staff videos. 2024 was my best reading year. I loved this year, honestly. Like, so many wonderful things happened. I made a video detailing the highlights of the year. I'll leave that down below in the description if you want to check that out as well. Let me know down below what your favorites of the year were. What are your 2025 reading plans? Or if you just want to just let me know how you're doing. That's cool too. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you know when I will be posting next. 2025. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.